Okay, so we're about ready to start bringing in some material, but there's some prep work that we really ought to do. So let me see if I can talk to you. So I've already mentioned to you that I'm using this book, and this is just an example. Because most teachers use books. I have several classes where I don't use them, but it gives you a good idea of what's available. In this case, this is the instructor edition, annotated instructor edition, and I'll use that as an example of a typical setup. So they give you a book, a couple CDs. I mentioned before maybe that I was missing a CD. I found it. My wife helped me find it. And a couple things. So I mentioned earlier in some of the earlier tutorials that we have certain resources that are available. And while you can't really read that, it tells you what you have and where it is. So it actually takes a while to get comfortable with this. In this case, I have these multimedia files, I have PowerPoint presentations, I've got end of chapter solutions, and so on. So I look at all that. I need to make sure it's on the CDs, and then there's a lot also available on the website. In addition, if I go to a chapter and I go to the end of the chapter, for example, here's chapter 4, and we have objectives and resources, right? But then we also have here on the other side kind of notes to the teachers, what you could do in the class and what you could do as homework. So the truth is, half the battle here is figuring out all that stuff, and as teachers we know that already. So I'm not going to get too much into that except to say that we have all these resources. And I'm just going to start with a simple thing, which is making my own inventory. So I've already gotten this going, which is here. I'll switch out of this view. And we have this inventory here, and these are the things I know I have that I definitely want to use. There's a bunch of other things I'm not worried about for now, but we've got PowerPoints, slideshows, and I can download them, or I can get them off, can't remember if they're off the CD or downloadable, but they're all there. I'm pretty sure it's a big zip file, and each chapter is zipped individually, which is kind of a drag. So I have to unzip, or upload the zips and download and so on and so forth. So we'll look at that. And also we have these multimedia tutorials, which I found are not only on the CD, but they're available on a website. So whenever something's available on the website and you have an online course, you just want to link right to that. That means you don't have to bog down your course. It means you don't have to worry about bandwidth. You can link right to it. Somebody else worries about the hosting, and there you go. And then we have the test banks, and tests by far are the trickiest things to deal with because there's so many different formats. In this case, I found a format that said Moodle, and it had this .rsp thing, which I'm not familiar with. I think it needs me to open it up in Respondus, which I don't have ready access to, and then upload it that way. So that's going to probably be a later tutorial. There are lots of ways to hack test banks so you can import them. I don't really want to be bothered with that now, but I know they're there, and I know I need to get them in. And I've probably got a total of about 25 or 30 test/quiz equivalents. And I do intend to use them all, even if they're just for review. And some of these in this particular case, they're based on these sound bites multimedia. So there's these multimedia files they can watch, which in turn have a quiz to go with them. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. There's a sample syllabus, there's handouts you could give, but most of those handouts are roughly equivalent to what you already find on the website. So to refresh your mind, I'm going to go switch back around to the website. Here's the course, here's the book site, and when we go to one of the chapters, it looks like this. So if we look at chapter 1, for example, it's got these objectives, the online study guide, key terms, end of chapter summary, web resources, and so on. Now all of this could go right into Moodle. In other words, we could take these objectives, swipe them, paste them into Moodle, and then that would negate the need to go to this site. I'm not clear that that's really necessary at the moment because there's so many other things here, but we really could grab all of this and move it over to Moodle. So one of the decisions is whether or not to do that. By the same token, these key terms, which are not chapter specific, they go from A to Z, and there's probably several hundred of them. Well, we could do some finagling and get these all imported into the Moodle glossary. And that might be a cool thing to do. Again, I'm not sure it's necessary. Is going to key terms here any better or worse than having key terms in Moodle? And that's kind of a judgment call. In the past, I would have said, by all means, bring it into Moodle. Now I think it's nice on this site. It does the job. I'll probably leave it here and then maybe later make a tutorial on how you would move it if you wanted to. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go ahead and start bringing some of this stuff in.